Alright gang, today we're gonna learn how to do some epic no-scope 360 fish farm. This video is divided up into chapters, so feel free to skip ahead for the specific fish or farms you want. First, let's go over your fishing rod. You can buy a shock rod from the biz at a pretty cheap cost. And if you're at a high rank in Fortuna, you can buy the Stunna fishing spear, which is basically a direct upgrade from the fishing rod. Make sure you go to your arsenal and equip a fishing rod in your gear. You can try using fishing rods from Cetus, but doing so will damage the fish and make it much harder to catch the thing. So stick with the electric rods for the Orb Vallis. By the way, be sure to stock up on that bait. You don't have to hoard a large amount like I did here, but it's pretty good to have a few for fish which only spawn with that bait. Also, be sure to buy some luminous dye from Cetus. They can be really helpful in spotting the fish for you, as the fish just glow. The Biz also has a today's special option where he sells fish parts using platinum, but honestly it's not really worth it. It's way too expensive and you can just easily fish the parts. Don't do it. If you click Provide Servofish, you can select Servofish and give it to the Biz for standing. If you click on Dismantle Servofish, you can select the Servofish and turn it into reusable parts for crafting. This will not give you any points, however. Honestly, not very great to provide the Servofish. It's a relatively slow way to gain standing, and the fastest way to gain standing in the Orb Vallis is pretty broken, and I'll be posting a guide on it at some point, so be sure to subscribe for that. When you're ready to fish, press the button for your gear wheel, which is Q on PC, and click a fishing rod. Once you have a rod out, you can press 1 and choose the appropriate rod from this wheel. There are 3 types of locations where servofish spawn. Lakes, like this massive area right outside the Fortuna elevator. Ponds, which are smaller, closed-off bodies of water out in the open, kinda like this one. And caves, like this one right outside the spaceport. Also, when you see this weird radiation over the water, those are the hot spots for fishing. Generally, you want to fish over these rather than the normal places, and throw your bait into this area just because it increases the chance of fish spawning. And some fish only spawn at a hotspot. These hotspots tend to rotate around the bodies of water, so they won't be in the same spot all the time. Keep in mind, some fish can only be caught using their specific bait, and some fish only come out during specific activity cycles. In Fortuna, the cycles are warm and cold, and you can hold M, or the map button, to check out how long it will be until the next cycle. So have fun timing that. Alright, I'm just gonna go over all of the fish you can catch in the Orb Vallis and how to catch them. Starting with fish you can catch in the lake, which if you remember is just in front of the Fortuna elevator. The Echo Winder only spawns during warm weather, and using broad spectrum bait can increase its spawn chance. The Long Winder only spawns during warm weather and can only spawn if there is a hotspot. Be sure to use Long Winder bait for this. The Sap Caddy only spawns during cold weather, and you can use the broad spectrum bait to increase the chances for it. The Kriller only spawns in warm weather, and be sure to use Kriller bait for it to increase the chances. Next, the fish from the pond. The Eye only spawns during warm weather, and you can use narrow spectrum bait for it. The Bricky only spawns during warm weather, and you can use broad spectrum bait for it. The Tink only spawns during cold weather, and you can use broad spectrum bait for that. And the Recaster only spawns during cold weather, and be sure to use narrow spectrum bait for it. The Tromizone, which is pretty rare, only spawns during cold weather, and you have to use a Tromizone bait for it. And finally, let's go over the cave fish. This scrubber spawns whenever, and you can use broad spectrum bait for it. The Mirewinder also spawns wherever, and you can use Mirewinder bait for it. The Karamote, which is very rare, prefers warm weather but can also spawn during cold weathers, and you have to use Karamote bait for it. And the Synthahid, also pretty rare, prefers warm weather, and you have to use Synthahid bait for it. Alright, so let's go over what arsenal would be best. So as Warframe, I'm going to have to pick Ivara as the best one, just because she has a dash wire ability, which just makes it super easy to stand over water and fish. You can also just go invisible and avoid enemies harassing you the entire time. Just keep in mind, playing as Ivara is pretty janky, and you need to have your bait equipped beforehand, because you can't bring up gear wheel during fishing. It's like a whole ritual you have to do specifically. And a decent build for this is one with high duration and high efficiency, as you just want that invisibility to go on for as long as possible. Empowered Quiver is not that important here. Actually, I don't even like this mod. Why do I have it? You can kind of live without it. Primary weapon, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, you will be having a rod in your hand, but sometimes if you have a serious encounter with enemies and you just want to get rid of them, just bring anything that can kill Corpus and buff it with Magnetic and Toxin. I like to use snipers for open world areas, just because they can actually be aimed at faraway targets in the open world areas. Same goes for secondary weapons, just bring anything. I like to have a faster secondary weapon than my primary. I go with the Aklex Prime, or the Gamma Core would be nice, since the Gamma Core can just delete Corpus. As for melee, this would be a great place to bring Gunblades or Glaives, just because you don't really want to switch to your primary secondary weapon and just have the rod out. Gunblades and Glaives tend to have a bit more of a range, and you can just easily throw them at enemies when they're harassing you. Just be sure to bring a good build that can kill Corpus, anything with Magnetic and Toxin. For your companion, you can use the Auxilus drone. That's kind of like a beginner drone, and it's designed for capturing wildlife and fishing. I haven't found it to be super useful for fishing though. So I'd say if you have absolutely no other useful pets, you can use the Auxilus. However, the best pet for fishing would actually be the Smita. Yes, I'm biased. Just because its charm ability can increase your loot, and that can include fish, and it will just increase your fish. When you have pretty good luck, that charm can double the number of fish you catch. Be sure to have a decent archwing just for getting around the Orb Vallis. So yeah, that's really it. Fishing is a pretty brain-dead activity. So you can just watch your favorite YouTuber in the background while you're just poking fish. Maybe even turn down your graphics settings to let that YouTube video run. Honestly, the resource requirements for fishing is pretty balanced, and you shouldn't be needing to farm it for your entire life. So yeah, have fun with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, what else can I say about fish? It's just the fishing. Come on, it's just fishing. It's just fishing.